More people than ever are into fitness and strength training in particular.
Yeah.
I've been lifting for over 20 years. I remember I started training when I was 15, maybe even 14.
Yeah.
And lifting weights at the time was sort of, like a bit, even at that time, it's kind of considered like a meathead activity, right? You want to be a bodybuilder or maybe certain sports. I was playing rugby at the time, but women in particular were not into lifting, right? It was kind of the girls did cardio, and then you go into any place with weights and it's 95% just guys. And over the last 2 decades, there's been this interesting shift where men and women of all ages and demographics, you go to any gym now, anywhere in the world, and it's men and women, and the women are lifting. They're lifting. They're no longer afraid of getting too bulky or getting whatever it is. People have worked out that toning isn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those myths have kind of died, and it's interesting. And then you've kind of had this weird overcorrection into where you've got this sort of the dark side of the social media, where you have people who are just there like thirst trapping and in the gym half naked, putting cameras in weird places and trying to sort of entrap men and whatever. And you're just like, oh gosh, maybe we need to go back to like some segregated gyms or something. So what are your thoughts on how gym culture and strength training culture has changed since you started to where things are now?
It's interesting because I remember being the weird guy. Even like with my friends, they'll be like, "What? You went to the gym yesterday? You're gonna go today?" I'm like, dude, like if I had the time, I think I would go 14 times a week. I'd go in the morning and night. Like I just like it, And then they're like, dude, this guy's weird. And like, what are you gonna do? Like be Mr. Olympia or something? I'm like, I don't know. I just like lifting. It's just fun. And so it went from being the weird guy to, I think, the YouTube part where there's a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, weird people. And we kind of became like this collective mindset. And then I think that was what was really needed, because then you start having like all these research studies and data that comes out where all the myths that people thought like, oh, don't lift when you're too young, it's going to stunt your growth, or chicks are going to get too bulky, they're going to look like men. And then you just see all this crazy data that shows the otherwise. And then you see like, oh wait, if you're 80 years old and you lift, it actually battles osteoporosis, and you start seeing all these other like good parts of it. So I really like that movement. But the whole like skimpy gym outfits, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it might be built into our DNA because like sex is one of the primal driving forces. So I feel like, I mean, even if you go to a car show, you're like, what does this chick in a bikini have to do with this Land Cruiser, or this Toyota Camry? But there's going to be some hot chicks at the car show, and I'm like, maybe it's just part of it. But I think the intentional entrapment part,
that's weird. That's very weird.
That's just a very weird avenue to try to get famous. Because I'm like, what do you want to be known as? Like the entrapment girl?
It's really odd. It's really odd. Where do you think it's going? I mean, I think in the West, we're in such an interesting place when it comes to health. I think we're in a really concerning place. And I think it's weird how there's this bifurcation. It's like more people are training than ever. I'd imagine gym memberships are probably at an all-time high.
And people are fatter than ever.
But obesity is at an all-time high. It's now hit 40% in this country, which is insane. That's obesity. That's not being overweight. That's obesity rate is, I think, 39% now amongst American adults. And that is deeply concerning for the first time ever in this country's history. And most people don't know this. The life expectancy is dropping now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's dropped. Dang. Yeah, it's dropped from 78 to 76.
Wow.
And that's the first time that's ever happened outside of like wartime.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's always just been going up as medicine improves and so on. And over the past 2 years consecutively, the life expectancy has decreased. And most people don't even know that. So I look at that and I'm like, that is concerning. Obesity rates are also going up in the UK and Canada, and even in the developing world, even outside of the modern West. It's obesity is just on the rise. Heart disease is on the rise. Diabetes is on the rise. So there's this strange juxtaposition where people are more health aware and more health conscious than ever, gym memberships at an all-time high. More people are training. There's much more awareness of this, much more awareness and talk about nutrition. Gosh, how many podcasts and books and this and that, but people still, on average, are getting fatter and fatter and less healthy. So I don't know exactly what that means for the future, but I find it quite concerning. I often think about the fact we're in the first quarter of a new century, and I sort of think, okay, we can look back and see how the 1900s went if you look at the world from 1900 to 2000. And then I'm thinking, okay, from 2000 to 2100, what's our society, culture, health, just our state of humanity? What's that going to look like over the next 50 to 75 years? Because if we keep going at the current rate, then you're going to end up at a time in 2100 where like 10% of the population's not fat.
Yeah. I feel like if we extrapolate what's going on right now, because the polarization's so strong, the world is going to be like, it's going to miss the entire like fitness middle class.
Yes.
And you'll have Spartans and just really heavy people.
Yeah.
There'll be like people that are like 400 pounds and then like under 10% body fat.
Yeah. It's like, have you seen Wall-E?
No, everyone tells me I should watch it.
Okay. Yeah, decent movie, but it's set in the future.
Yeah.
And is it even on this planet? It's somewhere, but all the humans are obese.
Oh wow.
And everyone's just in these like sort of flying, they're like mobility scooters, but they hover.
Yeah.
And you just like sort of eat through a tube, and you've just got like screens. You just have screens in front of you. You don't need to move, right? You just sit in this chair.
Yeah.
And everyone's just blubbery, and they're just sort of floating around. And I watch it, and I'm like, that could happen. I'm kind of like, this is, I'm like, this is not so far off.
We're halfway there.
Yeah.
Like if I go to a Target or Walmart, I'll see heavier set people walk from their car, right?
Yeah.
So their legs work. They get there, and then you know how you can rent like those scooters? They immediately get on the scooters so they can make their shopping experience much easier. And then they check out, get their bags, park it, and still walk to their car. And so I'm like, they don't need this, but we are heading towards this direction of like more and more convenience. And I feel like my own personal perspective on it is the world is designed to get more and more convenient because we're innovative.
Yeah.
But the more convenient we get, we need to practice even more self-control. And that's the tough part, because if you have like fast food at every corner, now you have to be able to say no at every corner, you know? And same thing with even like, and it's not just with fitness, but just everything. Like, let's say you have porn at your fingertips everywhere. How do you control that at every corner? Or like when we get stuck in like doom scrolling, like how do we unplug from there and go, oh, maybe I should like balance this out with some sort of book that's gonna increase my intellect. So I just feel like as we head towards that direction where we're slurping stuff out, we need to counterbalance ourselves, but it's such a high like dopamine hit on this side, and hard work is not fun, at least in the immediate. It pays off after. It's tough. Like, how do we get the world to kind of, I guess, turn up the self-control and like discipline knob as we turn up the convenience knob, you know?
It's like at every corner, there's an attempt to hijack your dopamine and get you to consume, whether with your eyes or your ears or your mouth, consume something that is not good for you.
Yeah.
And our ancestors didn't really have to battle this, right? Just battling the elements and staying alive was enough to stay in shape.